It's 2025 and Living Stones Church is going into its 50th year. 50 years. It's momentous, awe-inspiring, exciting, and humbling, all at the same time. That means we've been relentlessly pursuing the presence of God and loving His people for half of a century. We've been preaching, worshiping, evangelizing, and outreaching. Now, when I say we, I mean you. Generations past and present. You are the living stones that have built this house. Thank you for all you've done over the past 50 years and for how you've allowed God to use you. Now it's time to celebrate. So let's take a moment to look back at where it all started and what God has done. In the early part of 1974, a group of young people started having church in a local home. They had an unpopular, radical view of God that was unexplored at the time. And that view is what compelled them to push forward and create what we now know as LS Church. Al Jandal was the leader of this group. He had a dream to start a church for everyday people who had struggles and past traumas, but wholeheartedly loved God, people just like him. And that's exactly what this group did. In 1975, the name Living Stones Church was adopted, and the church began meeting with 16 people in a mobile home. Their dream was to share the unfailing love and truth of Jesus with everyone. The message of this church was and will always be Jesus. On March 5th, 1975, the church was incorporated and we officially became Living Stones. The first few services were held in a collection of odd places. We met in a trailer, a hair salon, a local bail bonds, and a few other rented spots. In 1976, we bought a building on the corner of Taylor Street and Sidnor Street in Alvin. It was the church's first permanent home. The small group of ragtag kids hungry for God began to grow. We went from 16 to 40 to 350 members in just a few years. In '79, we jumped at the chance to purchase 5 acres on the far north side of Alvin. A few months later, the slab was poured for the first 600-seat building. We moved into the new space in 1980. We needed to expand immediately and more than doubled our space to seat 1,400 members. That same year, we founded Living Stones Christian School with the goal of providing quality, Christian-based education to both our members and the community. The school began to grow. In just 2 years, it went from 32 to 250 students. In 1982, we opened a new 2-story school building. Every weekend, over 1,000 people who were hungry for God attended service. We were focused on doing church in an authentic, impactful way to reach the community. People have always been the heart of this church. Turns out we needed an even bigger place that could facilitate our big dreams and our vision for God's house. In 1983, we bought more land and began making plans to build the dome that the church has services in today. And the community took notice. The local papers of the time even coined the new facility the Alvin Dome. As construction began, God began meeting every need. Bit by bit, we paid for the Alvin Dome in full. The project was completed in 1986. By the time we moved into the new auditorium, we were living the dream. We had the stage, the suits, the flags, the modesty rails, fake plants, and most importantly, gold-colored Jesus is Lord letters shining in the auditorium. A few years later, we expanded even more and purchased 29 acres across Victory Lane and earmarked it for Victory Camp. We had a big dream to build Victory Camp with the vision of reaching the next generation for Jesus. After all, generations are His legacy. And it's our job to create a culture where each generation pours into the next. The first camp was held in 1992. We only had a tent and a bale of hay that first year, but the facility soon grew. We built dorms, a go-kart track, a pool, a water slide, a cafeteria, a lodge, a basketball pavilion, and lots more. We built anything and everything that can make Victory Camp a crazy cool place for kids to experience Jesus, because fun is essential. Religion can be heavy, but a relationship with Jesus is exciting. While this was all going on, the church and the congregation were changing as well. We added a children's wing and nursery to show families we cared about teaching their kids about the Bible. We even opened a public daycare. On top of all this, we were able to reach a whole new, larger audience through television. From 1987 to 1996, we were broadcast over the airwaves and brought the message of Jesus to countless homes. Things were going great. We coined the phrase, a now God for a now generation, and we set out to bring Jesus to the community. Floats in the city parade? Check. Daniel in the lion's den on stage with real lions? Double check. Circus performers hanging from the ceiling? We got it. A singing Christmas tree performance? Why not? Giant giveaways of toys, groceries, and school supplies, we did it all. Our goal was to help others connect to Jesus because connecting is our responsibility. We know this is extremely valuable to grow God's kingdom. Back at our camp, campers were living it up. They were ziplining, rock wall climbing, go-kart racing, and most importantly, Jesus encountering all summer long. In 1999, we got the idea for a Christmas outreach at Victory Camp. We began laying track and purchased Old Smoky, a train from the San Antonio Zoo. 1 year later, in 2000, the Christmas train was born. We transformed the camp into a winter wonderland and invited the public. Visitors experienced the sights, sounds, and tastes of Christmas, and most importantly, they experienced the story of Jesus. When you look at the history of our church, one thing is clear. We have a heart for building God's kingdom, a passion to reach the next generation, and a charge to help people encounter Jesus. It's on that foundation of bold faith that we continue to build our future. In 2018, we started a new chapter here at LS Church. Pastor James and Steph Pickens stepped into the lead pastor roles with a passion to continue the mission of this church. We made our anthem, God Has More, and set out to create an environment for each generation to experience God, so they can take His legacy of love, hope, and salvation to the world. Soon after, the campus makeover began. We cleaned, repaired, and painted everything from the dome to the school building, focusing on making a warm and inviting place for people and their families. We remodeled the stage and sound booth, as well as changed the look, feel, and sound of our Sunday services. We also began to host an annual free VBS for the community. That idea started small, but it quickly grew. Before we knew it, we were opening our doors to more than 600 local kids with the sole purpose of teaching them about Jesus in a fun, innovative way. And you answered the call. More than 100 volunteers a day come to make crafts, check in families, play games, and just love on the kids during VBS each year. Our Next Gen program exploded across campus. Youth events, services, worship nights, and camps grew bigger and better. We added a huge LED wall to our chapel, new go-karts, paddle boats, and a blob to the lake. All of these are tools to accomplish the mission of helping kids have a true revelation of Jesus. We believe revelation comes from a genuine relationship with your Creator. Relationship with Jesus is what restores and inspires us to follow Him. The renovations continued with a student center overhaul, daycare and bookstore update, and LS Kids refresh, as well as remodeling the old chapel into a multi-purpose room we call Room 25, which we use for weekly continuing ed classes. And we jumped feet first in the community. We held food drives, received impact offerings, partnered with community outreaches, and participated in parades. We have strived and continue to strive to be a church that is not just in Alvin, but for Alvin and the surrounding areas. We also revitalized our missions program and annually take teams to minister to the people of Belize. Our teams are made up of everyone from youth, young adults, and seniors. They teach lessons, lead worship, host VBS, feed families, and do so much more. Last year, we added 2 new trains to the Christmas Train family, our biggest community outreach. The train hosts more than 30,000 people per year. That's 30,000 people hearing the story of Jesus. Life groups expanded, Refill for youth and young adults launched, leadership and junior leaderships programs began, discipleship club kicked off, men's and women's ministries grew. Really, the list can go on and on. Over the last 7 years, we've not only stepped into a new identity, but continued to follow the path laid for us by our founders to passionately pursue building God's kingdom. Looking back on 50 years of ministry, we stand in amazement at what God started in this church many years ago and what He continues to do. Our story is one of stepping out in faith and trusting and believing that with God, all things are possible. So here's to the past. To each of you who've been a part of this journey, thank you for all you've done to build this house. Our story is your story. And here's to the future, to the next 50 years.
And I said, God, I want my way to really be successful. I want the end of my days better than the beginning of my days. I want the next 39 years to really, right? If I'm not just a hearer, but a doer, look at the results I'm going to have in life. Just because I'm here today doesn't mean this is where I'll be tomorrow. I'm going to follow you. I'm going to stick with you. I'm going to stay with you because you said you'd make my way prosperous. Jesus said, come and I will make you. He didn't say, I'm going to break you. He said, I'm going to make you, and I'll make your way prosperous. I come to give. I come that you might have. So I'm going to keep following God, and you know what? I'll be in a better place next year than I am today. I'm going to keep following God, and we're all going to that higher place, aren't we? Better place. Glory to God. What you believe.